All right, we're going to get this thing started. We're here chatting today with Sylvie Mix and Colin West.
Hello.
Yeah, the director, star, and co-writers of Double Walker.
Yeah.
And when this comes out, the movie will already be out. So
Okay.
we're going to be a little leery of spoilers, but you know what? We're just going to chat. If anything comes out,
I'm gonna ask questions.
go
for
see the
spoilers.
movie.
I think if it's after the movie came out, it's on them, right?
Yeah, it's
They've had a day to watch this movie.
yeah. So just to get everything going, just tell us how the idea came to both of you, where the ideation for this film started.
Well, I usually start this answer. So, in 2019, I was, in the springtime, I had just come out of an abusive relationship and was sort of, processing the emotions of that and feeling really angry a lot of the time. And so I was sort of channeling that into this, I was brainstorming and sort of doing character designs for this graphic novel about a female serial killer. And I was sort of pouring all my violence into that. And then Colin came to Columbus to work on this short that my mom and I shot with him. And that was really fun. That was sort of like my first, like real first film acting experience. And yeah, we got to talking during that trip, and I mentioned this like graphic novel that I was sort of brainstorming, and in the moment Colin was like, oh, that sounds really cool, but we didn't talk about it too in depth. And then Colin talked briefly about this graphic novel that he was working on about these twins and trauma. And so then a few months later, Colin called me and was like, hey, I keep thinking about this concept and I kind of think we should try to do something with it. And so then we just started FaceTiming once a week, having these long, epic, 3 to 5 hour conversations. And really it just started as talking about themes and experiences we've had and current events. And I mean, it was really just conversations. And then, yeah, it was never super plot based, but those conversations sort of evolved and.
Totally. I mean, Sylvie and I have been friends for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Sylvie's a total rock star, so I always knew that I wanted to work with her in some way on something, and it sort of came down to that short film, and I was like, let's just shoot something, figure it out in the moment, and then, we just sort of really, I think, connected during making that, and it was let's try something bigger, and, we kind of came together, and we're, FaceTiming a lot before Zoom. This is before the pandemic. So it's before it was cool to be doing this cross country. So I live in Los Angeles and she's in Ohio. And we conjured up this story and then we just went for it. I mean, it was within months we were up and shooting the thing. It was maybe 4 months of talking and quote writing. And then it sort of.
Yeah, I mean, even the term co-writers is interesting because it was never really it was really
written.
Yeah, it was just we would have these conversations and Colin would be taking notes and I sometimes took notes, but Colin would be taking notes and recording the conversations.
Yeah, I would record.
And then our next, basically within the next few days, Colin would send me a page or two that he had written, sort of just summarizing the concepts we had been talking about. And
So was there ever actually a script? Because I saw in the credits that Quinn was also credited for writing his monologue.
And
speech,
honestly,
yeah.
I think yes, and that speech was great. Yeah, Quinn Armstrong wrote his sort of eulogy speech as the father character, which was so good and threaded so well into the movie. But all the actors brought that. I mean, because it was a very improvised movie. I mean, so the script we always describe it as it was a 50-page novella. So it was never really a script. It was more this kind of wandering tale of this ghost and her encounters with these people. And sometimes there would also be a sentence that would be the camera's on a high angle looking down, you know, or whatever. It was just not traditional at all. It was just like, this is just what we want to try to shoot, you know.
It was more just like atmosphere and feeling.
Totally.
Almost. And like both of us are very visual people, so every once in a while we'd be like, okay, wait, no, this one shot.
Yeah.
Like, we definitely got to get this.
There's like
specific
moldy
thing.
leaves on the ground or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that's like really specific.
Oh,
But there really wasn't
definitely comes
any
through.
dialogue written.
Yeah.
And then Colin really just wrote a few pages of dialogue for when we did auditions.
Right.
So that people would have scenes to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
A big part of the tone and mood of it is the landscape of Columbus. What can you tell us about capturing that and how the place played into the filmmaking process?
It's a great question, Andy. I am from Columbus. We're both from Columbus, Ohio, but I haven't lived there for about 10 years, and so it's such a nostalgic environment for me, especially because I've been in LA, which doesn't have seasons, and Ohio is like the place of seasons. It's like a very 4-season place, and so especially coming here in the winter, it's such a specific atmosphere. Midwest winter, especially Christmas. I mean, this is a Christmas movie, really. There's Christmas lights, and you know, it's set during Christmas. And so, you know, I think a lot of the like nostalgia of the place came in, and some of my favorite times in shooting were just going out and getting like B-roll of like the snow or the trees. And I spent, so much time just like wandering around the city with my tripod and the camera and setting it up and we have so much. In fact, the first edit of the film Kira Burton put together was like a 10 or 12 minute just like B-roll with score.
It was so cool.
It was so good.
It was kind of like a music video
It
almost.
was.
It was just like this dreary Midwestern winter
Yeah.
landscape. Like, yeah.
And it was sort of like, oh, this needs to be the movie. And like we there are some like B-roll sequences that we like really cut down, but I was like, oh, I really want this like 10-minute B-roll sequence that doesn't say anything except like tone.
It was,
So can I use some of that for a music video?
Yeah.
Can I license out the footage?
There's plenty of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the imagery of Columbus is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the landscape shots, the wide angles, and
It's funny, you know, I think I don't know, it's got kind of a unique take on Ohio too, because I don't think it's necessarily like Poser, the movie you shot basically at the same time, just before we shot Double Walker, you shot your other movie Poser, and it's also set in Columbus and very much about Columbus, but it has you're seeing a different side of Columbus than Double Walker.
Yeah, very
You
much
know?
so. Yeah. Like the sort of end of summer, beginning
Right.
of fall.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this is like dead winter gray. Even our like color grade was like basically like, let's just keep it like kind of milky and like, you know,
Yeah.
unsaturated and low contrast.
And originally, the whole movie was supposed to be snowy.
Yes.
But, and we were like, yeah, Ohio in January, it'll definitely snow, like at least some of the time. And then it didn't end up snowing at all while we were shooting. The whole time.
3 weeks, no snow.
Until the last day, the last scene, the last take, as soon as we wrapped on the entire movie, just the fattest snowflakes started falling from the sky, and it was
magic.
It was magical.
People were like, the whole crew was like trying to catch up. You know, it was like, oh my God. Because the whole time we'd been talking, it was a kind of a joke on set, like, because it's written into the script, like, snowy winter, whatever.
Yeah.
And we did not get that.
And so some of the cast members were from LA too, and like hadn't really gotten to experience snow like that. So it was like it just added this extra element of magic, but also it worked out how it was supposed to, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I never would have known that fact watching the movie.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
I bet they wanted snow. No.
We wanted more snow than we got, but it worked out. It was funny because I think like Sylvie's character, is like bleach white hair with a white, coat and stuff like that. And so like the idea was actually to have her really blend into the scenery, this like white world of snow. But then the opposite happened because everything in Ohio is like brown and gray in the winter and sort of like degrading and dark, and so she wound up being like super contrasty, like this white figure against this dark background. Especially a lot of the scenes were at night too, so it was kind of the opposite, which worked great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about the design of the ghost character, sort of the makeup and the wardrobe. You mentioned wanting to blend into the environment, but what were some of the other pieces of thought that went into that costume and that character?
I mean, I think we were really trying to go as simple as possible, relatively, but also like, I think we both really liked the image of just like your typical sheet ghost, but also, you know, that's been done, and trying to bring some level of humanity to the ghost character, I think. So, you know, I mean, she's obviously like bleached out and stands out in that way, but also creating a look that like, spoiler, when she's a little more human later on and like going to the party and stuff, a look that still can be very human, or kind of go that route. And yeah,
Yeah, and even like this idea where like she's sort of like given the ghost look, and it's like she sort of like acquires the T-shirt from the kid's closet, and then she acquires the coat from the Lost and Found at the movie theater. It's like kind of like a borrowed outfit that's like conveniently ghost-like.
yeah.
That was also kind of like, you know, it's like in world, but it's not a costume. It's a piece of wardrobe, you know. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of an I mean, it is a costume, but it's very much like in world, in a believable way that you were saying. And so it was a fine line. We looked at so many coats, and actually speaking of that, the coat we like special ordered from this like company that on Etsy who made them like custom or whatever. And it took like, we were shooting, and it wasn't until like the 4th day of shooting, and we like were shooting a scene that like needed the coat, and it like wasn't there yet, and we were freaking out because we're like, we can't shoot the scene without the coat, otherwise it's not gonna match all the rest, and we don't even know if the coat's gonna fit you. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway, it arrived like just before we started shooting, so
Like that morning.
yeah. So
Yeah.
thank goodness.
But we definitely had sessions before we started shooting of like trying on several different
Right.
long white
Yeah.
t-shirts or dresses, and just like, how does this look?
Like, this looks horrible.
Yeah, just like, and then the makeup was really just trying to give my face a like, I don't know, maybe more hollow, haunting quality,
Right.
just to distinguish. But yeah,
Yeah.
and we were just trying to be resourceful too. I mean, we weren't working with much, so we were just
Sure.
like, okay, how can we make like a cool kind of ghost vibe
The
without?
jacket was perfect.
Yeah, we liked it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was almost like all the characters that could see you were like helping you dress yourself.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
For sure.
Another question for you, Sylvie. How did you approach this performance and this character? I mean, what's going on inside this character's mind? And I guess this is a place where we can get more into spoiler territory, but you have such an esoteric character origin story. So I'm wondering, like, what are you thinking and feeling as you're going through these scenes?
Yeah. Well, I think definitely, I mean, yeah, as a kid, I definitely was growing up in sort of abusive environments, and so, or like where I was witnessing a lot of abuse, and so really trying to channel how it felt to be an observer as a child and not quite understanding why people behave the way they do, but having a general sort of black and white grasp on good and bad, which, you know, I think like with this film, like we really wanted to explore the gray spaces of trauma, especially. And I think really just channeling my child self and a lot of the anger and sadness and regret that comes with trauma and trauma response. But like it didn't feel that difficult to me, because I think, also we specifically wrote no dialogue. I mean, there was no dialogue, so it was really trying to just like channel the kid watching from around the corner and like hold on to a sense of innocence almost, but like really trying to get a grasp on what. I mean, another thing is the dream in the movie is based on an actual dream I had when I was 17, going on 18, in which I died at 18, and actually, like, the way the dream plays out in the film is almost exactly how this dream was. And it was this epic dream where, I was taken and given these two choices, and I chose to remain a ghost, and I literally was in a house with all the people I'd ever known and loved, watching them all grow old and forget about me and die. And so like really channeling that feeling too, because that dream had me convinced my entire 18th year I thought I was going to die. And so kind of channeling that too, and just the pain and like loneliness that I felt in that dream. So coming at it from a few different angles, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. I mean, I remember you telling me that dream and being like, oh, well, there's the movie. We got it. All right, there it is. Like, cool. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
And I think like going back to your character, there's like not a lot of dialogue, but that almost makes it harder because it's all sort of like visual storytelling. And the character itself, we had a lot of conversations like about this because it's a little girl who dies, and she's, in the script she's like 6, 7, something like that, and dies, and then kind of comes back as this, sort of like young woman, right? And so it's like how to sort of project that younger sort of innocence into an older, sort of body, and you can almost witness this growth in the ghost, like she's growing up, like it's a kind of coming of age in a way for the ghost character, like learning about the world from more adult eyes. And I don't know, I always thought that was kind of it was a tricky balance, for sure, with all of it, but I think we really tried to kind of pull that off. So
What was the dynamic between you two in this movie? Were you
between us?
Yeah, were you directing Sylvie like you would another actor, or were you pretty?
So
it was
different.
like a symbiotic understanding of.
So different.
We communicate very well.
Very well.
We're like almost always just like right on the same page. Like,
Okay, roll camera. Let's go. Let's go.
You're like
don't
twins.
even have to say full words. We're just
We're both Geminis, so.
Yeah. Which is actually kind of where.
Yeah, that was like part of the whole like double walker thing, because
it led to doppelgangers and
then. But as far as that goes, like direct, I think our working relationship was very different than any other actor that I've ever worked with before or since, and it's because it was developed together, because it was very much of a collaborative effort. Like, the film is not you, the film is not me. It's like us plus all of our wonderful, cast and crew who came and like put in so much effort, so much talent.
It was so collaborative. It's
very conversational.
Like, honestly, even saying this is our film, like, it is, but it became so much more. I think that like it just took on a life of its own, because so many people brought themselves to the film in a way that we like could not have ever predicted.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just so
everybody.
organic.
I mean, even like Quinn, like literally he wrote that father eulogy on the plane as he was flying in, for his shoot, and it was like everybody sort of got it, and because it was a big conversation with everybody, which was really such a different kind of process. I mean, compared to the other films that I've made, and I know Poser was a little bit more like scripted, like where it's it's not that we didn't have a plan. It's just we like really allowed the day to speak to us, you know, and like offering up, you know, getting advice from everybody on set and like making, you know, everybody was like, yes, there are credits given to each person, but I mean, our crew was like 7 people or something. Like it was tiny.
Yeah.
And so everybody was doing everything. And so there was nobody you didn't listen to, you know? So everybody had their thoughts and would come in and we would listen to it all. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It was cool. It was very unique. Yeah.
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 Did you have some?
Yeah, I have plenty. But
Keep
I wanna
going.
give you- okay.
I could keep talking on that topic.
I love it. It's like the host.
I think the one thing though that I have noticed about y'all's crews, since this is the second movie we've released kind of in your ecosystem, is it seems to be that's the way you guys make films. It's like with friends, there's a very casual like working dynamic. I mean, if you look at some of the greatest film crews of all time, that's the way that they all were. Some of the best movies
true.
ever made, everybody was a friend.
Right. I know, like,
Speaking of Wes Anderson at lunch, like they're all the same people.
They're all the same people.
crews. You also have like Vince Vaughn and those crews of people all working together. And
yeah, definitely. And even like, it's funny. Like I really like Kubrick a lot, and like it was funny because his whole thing was like he actually started with really big crews, and by the end, like the last few movies he made, his crew was like 10 people, and like he'd just take time, you know, and it was like that was the third sort of factor. And so I just think it's like I think you can really benefit from it, you know.
It felt like summer camp
Yeah, it was totally like
in the
summer
dead
camp
of
vibes.
winter.
In the dead of
the movie,
so cold.
Because it was like the whole crew, except for me, because I lived right around the corner from the house we were from our like base camp. The whole crew was staying in the house that we were shooting in,
Right.
which was haunted.
We can get into that later.
It's a whole different thing. But and so it was like literally like the crew wakes up, has breakfast together. We're all like I would walk over and like we're all in the living room having our morning meeting and everyone's all tired and groggy. And, you know, it's been 2-3 weeks at this point. We're just like everyone's comfortable with each other and like is on the same page.
Right.
And I think we tried to make sure that everyone felt comfortable communicating and it just felt like, you know, like when we cut on that last scene and it started snowing, it was just like, oh my God. It was like the last big hurrah before everyone goes
it's
home.
like tears mixed with snow.
Yeah,
Like.
it was awesome. It felt like a family by the end, and
For sure. Yeah.
I think just having a crew so tight knit just made it. I don't think any of us really were thinking about like the end product. We were just like, this is fucking
Have
fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What do you think it is that makes an experience like that? Is it those past relationships, or is there something that you both brought to the set? And you know, how do you run a set to make it such a good experience?
hire all your friends.
Hire your friends, yeah, but I mean that's definitely true. But I think it's about like destroying the hierarchy of it, because I think that there's like
mutual respect,
and like everybody has their very unique skills and talents, and like and like being okay, I think, with like saying I don't know or what do you think, rather than like as a director especially, like I think often like directors are like, oh, you have to know everything and whatever, like, but it's like, no, actually, like the best thing you can do is like collaborate. And like, you know, like even like as an actor, like I always like to say like my actors are just the department heads for their characters. So it's like, it's not about I'm going to come in and say what's right or wrong or like whatever, but it's like, well, what do you think? Like, and it can sort of like be a conversation. And I think like that, and hopefully at least sort of instills like confidence in your crew that like they're putting their best work out too. And like they can have, like they can see themselves in their work, you know, and giving people the time of day to sort of do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what made me fall in love with just like the process of filmmaking is just what an incredible collaborative feat it is. I mean, every single person on set is a necessary cog in the machine, and when it's well oiled, it feels like fucking magic. I mean, it's so incredible to watch everyone do their thing. There were moments, I mean, being on the Poser set and the Double Walker set, where I would just like be watching everyone do their thing and tear up. I mean, it's just like so beautiful and incredible
sure.
to me. And I think like, yeah, I think the hierarchy has to be destroyed in order for everyone to feel comfortable and heard and important, because the fact of the matter is a movie doesn't get made unless you have all the necessary components and everyone has a specific job that they're good at, and that needs to happen. And so I think we both just brought respect and open ears and open minds to set and tried to make sure that everyone felt respected and important. I think, yeah. I mean, I think that's what makes the difference between it being a job and it being a project that you're working on.
Yeah.
You know, like you're either showing up to work and you're getting through the day, or you're showing up to set and having a good day with your crew.
Yeah, totally. I think that was like, you know, one thing about our set too was like, yeah, like people were able to kind of show off because it was a small set, like people were able to kind of do some fun things that they don't normally get to do on a lot of sets, you know? And we're encouraging that, you know, with like lighting setups or trying out a new camera rig or things like that. So, so all that stuff was fun. And
On big sets, no one touches anyone else's
I know.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
very
Don't come near
hands-on.
my camera. I'm falling out of my chair too. Just like, don't go near the lights.
Right.
But
Which is understand. I mean, there's like a safety factor when there's 100 people on set, of course.
Of course.
You know, so.
but I mean, yeah, we had so few people that it's like we were all wearing many hats.
Right.
Was everyone on the crew, were you all friends, or did you hire some people that you didn't know? Other than the actors?
I didn't know most of the crew or maybe any of the crew
Spencer.
most of it.
Yeah.
But Colin knew.
Yeah.
You've worked with everyone?
I brought in some people, and it kind of, I say our crew was like 7, but it kind of ebbed and flowed depending on the day, because some days we needed more for certain things, and so we'd bring in kind of some more people that, you know, either you knew from town. I mean, like, so Sylvie produced the film, and it was like, you know, I haven't lived here in 10 years, so I didn't know, you know, quite exactly what the scene was here anymore, so it was good to, you know, work with you, and then some of the Loose Films guys, like Brett, who was really helpful, so.
What was the hardest sequence to shoot?
Well, I have my answer.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. I know
have
exactly.
my answer.
I know exactly.
Which is running naked through the woods when it was literally below freezing. I mean, maybe in the single digits.
It was very cold.
It was
the coldest day.
It was the coldest day, and it was the day that I had to run naked through the woods and lay there on the frozen ground after.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. After having killed Jack's dad, and
Gut wrenching. When that reveal happens, you're like, sorry, if you haven't seen the movie, it's on you. Go watch the movie.
Yeah, that was like our art director, Katie Harriman, was standing right behind the scenes with just a big blanket, and after every cut, she would just like wrap me up in it, and I was just like...
We had like a little heater thing going. None of it really
would
worked.
Would go like wait in the van, you know, like warming up, but one of the takes where I'm laying next to him as he's dying, I literally blacked out from the cold for like a few seconds while we were rolling, and was just like, whoa, that was weird, okay. Like, just got so cold that my vision went black, and realized we were still rolling, and I was like, oh shit, I have to be acting right now.
Yeah.
It was gnarly though. It was...
Did you have shoes on when you were running in the woods?
So Colin was like, do
Colin's-
it again, just don't black out this time.
A little less blackout on this tape.
No, everyone was like very much working to keep me as warm as possible, and we did it pretty quickly, like
Yeah, we tried to do it
as
as fast
quickly
as
as
we
we
could.
were able to. But that was an intense practice in meditation.
Yeah, for
I'll
sure.
say that.
for
Do you
sure.
do cold plunge showers now?
No, but I am much less quick to complain about the cold because I'm like, man, remember that time you were butt ass naked in the middle of the woods?
And you have
Can't get much
like
colder
it's
than that.
filmed. It's for
Right.
everyone to always remember that you did that.
Yeah.
But also, like, even in the other scenes, like, you're just in a t-shirt. Like, it's really,
Yeah, I mean, it was cold the whole time, but
Yeah.
that was
that was something else.
intense.
What
Yeah.
about for you, Colin? What was the most difficult sequence to pull off for you?
I think like there was only like some technical difficulties because I do think that there were some like creative challenges along the way, but like the support system of the crew and Sylvie like really kind of like got us through a lot of that stuff. But I think like the day we shot the movie theater stuff was all kind of all at once, and it was just kind of a long day, and we kind of had a lot to get through, and it was again like a cold day, and like they were all cold days, but it was also night, so it was just a lot, you know, and it was sort of towards the end, so the crew was like feeling like kind of burned, but you know, we like got some pizza and stuff, and like try to keep everybody happy. But yeah, some of those like technical things where it's like, okay, like let's keep going, we got this, you know, we got this, like just a little bit more, and like, you know, because some days we only shot for 6 hours, but some days we went way longer and it was like 12, 14. You know, we try to keep it all more reasonable, but yeah, so there were some harder days like that, you know, I suppose.
There was also, I don't know if it was difficult in that it took a long time to get done, but it definitely was like one of the more coordinated shots is that end shot, the 360 shot at the end, which was like
All hands on deck.
all hands on deck, and literally like everyone had a thing, you know, one person was in the kitchen like, okay, turn the light off now, okay, turn the TV off now, okay, and then like just
Do the blinds,
and
and
I was
change
like,
the light.
yeah, I was like behind the couch like closing the blinds and putting the blanket back in its exact place, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we had a behind the scenes video of that, because that was definitely like choreographed. Like that's probably the one scene that we really had to like.
Oh yeah, that's true. That took many takes.
Yeah, but it was worth it,
Yeah, it was cool.
and it was fun.
Yeah.
Great.
So you got to wait till the very end of the movie to see that shot.
What about talk to me about the edit. So you had a very experimental way of making this film, and I think you told me before that you had to cut quite a bit from your first cut in order to sort of find the diamond in the middle of it. So what was that process
Yeah, Andy,
like?
totally. Well, first off, Kira Burton was our editor and is so talented and helped us through that whole process. She had a great head on her shoulders and was able to kind of keep it all straight in this way. And she came to Columbus for a couple of weeks to like be with us during the shoot, which helped
Got
a lot.
haunted.
She was in the haunted room in the house. We'll get to that.
We do need to hear about that.
And I mean, the movie was also like as an aside too. It was all edited over Zoom because we shot the movie in February and then the pandemic happened in March or January, February, and then we had to do the whole thing editing on Zoom. So it was new. It was a new thing for both me and Kira to sort of work in that way. But essentially, like it was just a whole bunch of experimentation and sort of like an unbelievable amount of charts and sort of like graphs about timelines, because there's really 5 or 6 concurrent timelines happening, and we're jumping between them. And sometimes you jump and it's only one shot, but it's like 4,000 years in the future with the future ghost, like as like, this character in the desert or whatever, or bouncing way back to when she was a kid, and it bounces all over the place. So I remember also having this Excel spreadsheet with all of the scenes written on it and like color coordinated as to like who's in it, if the mother is in it, what day it was, and all that kind of stuff. And that chart would always change as we were changing the edit, and it became a writing process. Like I've never been in a more of a writing process in an edit than this movie, because I think the script is so loose and the shooting was so loose too. And it was about like, okay, like distilling and finding the kernel. And we had these like 10-minute sequences of BRoll with just score, and that was like, and there is a movie that exists like that, but but keep and it's just, I think it was realizing that like the whole movie kind of feels like B-roll. Like it really all feels like this big tone poem, and so it was about like editing to the feeling, editing to the emotion, rather than editing necessarily to the plot. It's because it's not a B, C, D kind of plot. It's like a Z, D, 3, 7, F kind of plot thing. So it was very like trying to find its way through in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the editing also being a writing process, I really wasn't that involved in the editing process at all, except for that.
You give notes on cuts and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like Colin would send me some of the cuts, and watching it evolve over the months they were editing it was really fascinating, because even the first cut was different from our script, and then from the first cut to the film that's about to come out tomorrow night, I mean, there were so many different stories. Like it really took on so many different forms just with the elements that we shot.
Right.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, for sure.
What were some of the biggest differences?
I mean, you would know more intimately, obviously, but like from my perspective, just getting these cuts, it was like, I mean, obviously there's differences when there's like no sound editing and score and stuff, but as far as like the story, it did really go from it was even more like atmospheric and emotion based, I feel like, in the first few cuts, and really kind of took on a plot as it evolved. Because honestly, I feel like even by the time we finished shooting, we were just like, okay, we have this thing, still kind of don't know exactly where it's going. And yeah, I feel like it just took on a life. It went from sort of being this visual poem, which I think it still is, but was given more plot.
Mm-hmm. And it was also about like organization of the scenes, like the order, literal order of them, because it works in almost any order, but it's a different story. And so it's about like, I mean, like you were saying, the reveal of like when you know that the dad is the dad. Like all that stuff is like, carefully sort of like chosen as to like when you get that information. But, there's like a version of the movie that's like chronological, and it's just really flat, because like even it's really like a noirish mystery that we build, with like, we get these little tidbits of the little girl, and you're like, wait, what's going on with her with her dad? Oh, what's going on with her with these men with her dad? And then it's like, it just keeps, and then like, they were at the funeral, and then they were like, it's sort of like, it's really about piecing together the puzzle. Whereas if it were all in order, it would have, you sort of give away all the stuff at the beginning, and then it's like, it doesn't make sense. But we really tried to like put a subjective lens into it and like put the audience in the shoes of the ghost, sort of trying to remember these things. And I think a big difference was what we ended up doing is in the script, actually the day of the funeral was kind of spread throughout the whole movie. But what we ended up doing and finding was more successful was putting the funeral right up front. So the beginning of the movie is like this 5-minute silent short film that is essentially like following the mother on the day of her daughter's funeral. And so you see her wake up, you see her like cleaning up the mess, you see her at the church, you sort of hear a eulogy a little bit, but it kind of drifts away, and then at the cemetery and at the wake and so forth. And it's just very tonal, and it kind of gets you into this like world of pain and loss. And then you leave the mom for like 20 minutes, and then like eventually you like walk into the house, your character walks in the house and like just takes a seat next to the mom, and you're like, oh, those two are connected somehow, and then you like cut to another thing, and then you have to like wait until so it was a very precise sort of like stitching that needed to happen with all of it.
And originally it started with the wrestling match.
Yeah,
the movie
wrestling match.
cold opened with the wrestling match.
Yeah.
So it was like a totally different.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like boys fighting, which is what we kind of wanted. This like, because it is like this adolescent movie, right? Where it's like about a little girl, but also this sort of young woman, and kind of their relationships with trauma and so forth. And yeah, it opened on the wrestling match, but without context. It was just the wrestling match, and then like it would cut to whatever, and we tried that, but it didn't work.
That's amazing. I also wanted to ask, how much of the writing process? I mean, maybe I'm bearing the lead here. Spoiler territory. Talk to me about the ending, and you can be a filmmaker who says, I don't want to really explain the ending if you want to.
I never want to explain anything, but no, I'm kidding.
But I know a lot of people who are watching this film are like, I'll talk for myself. The ending is like, wow, like something mind-bending is going on. Like it touches me emotionally, but I don't quite understand everything about how I might interpret this. So for people at home who have seen the movie, who are going onto YouTube to be like, I got to figure out this ending. What sort of tidbits can you offer?
Well, I think the first thing I always like to sort of say when it's like, what does it mean? Because you get that question a lot, especially because I make kind of weirder things, and with like very ambiguous. All of my endings are super ambiguous always, but it's like the what does it mean question always comes back to like, it means exactly what it is, and I think like the way in which I feel like if this is like it's going to sound like a bullshit answer, but like if I could literally just like put it all in a sentence, like there'd be no reason for making the movie. But it's about like, it's about the feel rather than the sort of the plot punch, I guess. And for me at least, and it's always sort of like following the emotional track, which I think is why people connect to it, but are also like confused by like, oh, I felt feels, but I don't know why. And it's like, it's kind of like great to me, but I will say, yes, it's like an interpretive ending, but I have my own like very clear understanding of how the end works. And, the whole question of the movie, right? This like, would you choose living one more day as a ghost or one more day as a human or forever as a ghost, comes to be answered in both ways. At the end, you sort of see both ways presented. And then, when you come back to that last shot of the film, you come to realize what she chose, and how that kind of might have all really just been a sort of fever dream of trauma from the mom as well. So I think there are like a lot of kind of like threads. It's very much like a mosaic of tone and feeling that I think, I don't know, to me is sort of more powerful than being overly explicit, although I hope at least that we sort of successfully rode this line of being like ambiguous enough to like interpret, but also like plotty enough to like have some kind of, you can get your claws in slightly at least,
Yeah. I think for me, I also definitely have a clear kind of understanding of the ending and what happens. I do think that the meaning depends on the person watching. I mean, already from what I've heard from people who have seen it, like with anything, it depends on your perspective and your experiences and the way your mind works. But I think, for me, the whole movie sort of, I've always had very vivid and often lucid dreams, and they typically feel a lot like the film, like very just like kind of piecing together, but mostly what I remember is how I felt. And I think that sort of is like, we went into it definitely with this kind of trying to create this sort of dreamlike state. And without, I don't know, I'm hesitant to like say exactly what the ending means, because I do like allowing people to fill it with their own ideas. But I will say that to me, this movie has always been about the mother.
100%.
It's her story. It's not Ghost's story, really. It's about the mother, and the mother processing her own trauma and grief, and Ghost is a fantasy of who her daughter could have become in an alternate timeline. And I might leave it at that.
I think I think you totally touched on something though that's great, because I think the film, if you look at the first shot of the movie and the last shot of the movie, they're the same shot, and it's the mother waking up, and I think that it's like this. It's a very cyclical structure, the whole movie. Like, the little dialogue that there is often repeated like a few times. And you get to, like, sort of recontextualize like what she means by what she's saying as she's explaining her dream and so forth. But like, yes, the mother waking up, it's like, hopefully we've constructed this piece where like when the movie is done, it feels as if you've woken up from a dream, because it is. And when you do wake up from an actual dream, it's like things are muddy and messy. Like, you can remember who was in it and like where it was kind of set, but all that disappears like pretty quick. And it's like, wait, was that like, what was going on that, in that, like, but you feel the feels. Like, you can wake up anxious, or you can wake up sort of, happy or whatever it is because of the dream. So it was delicate, but I think like, that dream state is very important. Yeah.
You're wrong. It's a time loop grandfather paradox.
Yes. I like this. No, I'm with you.
This will be a YouTube exclusive. Colin and Sylvie reveal the movie.
Confronted by the distributor.
The faceless distributor sitting behind the camera.
We'll flash your photo of Andy.
You've hit literally everything in my notes. So what else do you have, Eric?
Boy, let's talk a little bit about just making movies in Ohio. Is this your first movie in Ohio?
First feature film shot in Ohio.
How was that?
Great. I would absolutely make movies here 100% all the time. And
I've never known anything else, so
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely home, and I feel like, I don't know, again, like, I'm incredibly nostalgic, so like being here is like, it's inspiring in the most pure way, because, living in Los Angeles, it's just like, the environment is not, it's foreign to
It's
me.
a little Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's paradise every day in the worst
Being
way.
here for a year, I feel like the they've rejuvenated my soul.
I agree.
It gets a little soulless out there. Let's
We
bring more.
need the winter.
You need it. You need to
Everyone's
slow
soul
down.
has to die a little bit to be reborn in the spring.
Yeah,
you need
exactly. I know. That's what someone told me when I moved back. They're like, we actually need the winter to slow down. And I was like, I was going 100 miles per hour, 365 in California, and I felt less creative. I feel like this film it's like a smaller film, just like crew budget wise, but like it has such a bigger feeling to it, and I feel like that was probably the state, the backdrop, the crew that y'all made your movie with, and I feel like it all comes through.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think it has a really unique look because it is shot where it's shot, and not many things are shot here in Columbus, and so I do think it has like a world to it that isn't explored on film very much. So,
but it is cool that, it is just cool when Columbus people watch the movie and can like recognize places, like already people have been really excited about Studio 35 and like, I don't know, even just some of the street shots that we've gotten, like people recognize.
Definitely.
Oh, you're walking down Indianola,
I mean, have you thought about people now recognizing you? Has it happened yet? I mean, I feel like once the movie comes out, and people
Everyone
see
in
it,
this city
or if it
knows
hits a big
knows
streaming platform.
Sylvie anyway.
So you're already
What?
you're already a little local legend.
She's a total legend.
I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say, like, I think a lot of people know about me already. I'm not necessarily looking forward to potentially being more recognizable, but
there's your
but
face.
I'll handle it.
The anonymity is gone. It's gone.
That's why I love masks, actually.
I
Can just put my hair in a hat, put some sunglasses on and a mask, walk outside
Ghost.
and nobody knows who I am. It's
Total
great.
ghost.
I love it.
Give us the ghost story.
Yeah. Okay.
You go.
Is it?
It's the first experience in it.
True.
Oh, so it's not just Kira. It's
Oh,
you were
no.
just in a haunted house.
It's everybody.
Yeah.
What?
It was a very haunted house. So I had never experienced any ghost encounters before this, and I was not a believer.
Sinner?
I'm not a sinner. Come on now. I went to live in this house. So it's my friend David and Alyssa's house. And nobody had lived there for a few years. So a lot of the movie was shot in that one house. And it's up here in Old North Columbus. And when I got to town for pre-production, I was the only one living in the house for about 2 months. Very quickly had like an experience, and both David and Alyssa had experienced stuff when they were living there, and it was always it was known to be in our friend circles. It was a haunted house, and I was staying in one of the rooms and had this experience at night where it was like, I forget what it's called, but it's like you wake up but your body is paralyzed.
Sleep paralysis.
Yes, sleep paralysis. And I felt like I was being held down, and it was like maybe a few seconds of like I definitely saw this like dark creature above me, and then it was like and that was like that was like the first few days I was there alone. And so then I slept downstairs in the living room for the whole rest of the thing, because it was just like too intense. And then when people started arriving, I kind of feel bad about this, because the one bedroom is like known to be the room, like the room where shit goes down. And basically Kira ended up being in that room, and it was a thing where it's like we were trying to keep it from her that like that was the room that was.
Well, Colin was like, "Do you think this is something we need to tell Kira about? Like, do you think it's better if we tell her or don't tell her?
Don't tell
Like,
her, yeah.
if we tell her, then maybe she'll just like it'll freak her out and she won't be able to sleep anyway. But if we don't tell her, what if she's just having experiences and then she's not talking about it?" And that's exactly what ended up happening.
Turns out like she was going through it every night, and like hearing noises outside the window and all this stuff. And of course, like there's like a church right across the street, like out that window of that bedroom, there's a church with the bells that goes off every day at noon or whatever. Yeah. And so it was very haunted, and as it turned out, so the mother in the movie in the script name is Catherine, like her character name. And the day we were moving out of the house, like getting all the crap out of the house, we met the neighbor. And the neighbor was like, "Oh, what have you guys been doing over there? It seems like you've been working on something, whatever." And we're like, "Yeah, we were, shooting this movie." And he's like, "Oh, that place is haunted, right?" And we're like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And they were like, "Yeah, the woman who died there 10 years ago, her name was Catherine, and she, blah, blah." And we were like, "What?" Catherine? And so it was, it all kind of came full circle. But yeah, it's a void.
I mean, at a certain point, I think everyone on the crew knew except for Kira.
Yeah.
And so we were all just like, dude, everyone was sort of on the lookout for like weird shit happening, but we were like trying to keep it from Kira because thought that would be better. But then after, or like,
sorry, Kira.
the day she left or something, or after she left, was like, yeah, I was actually getting fucked with pretty hard in there. Like,
Pretty rough.
But she was editing, so hopefully it was inspiration.
It was inspiration in some way. But she hadn't had an experience before either, so it was one of these things where I think everybody going into the movie wasn't a believer, and everyone leaving the movie really was, by the end of it. So. Not everybody.
I was,
you definitely were. And I was to an extent. Maybe that's, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway.
That's a great
Interesting story, yeah.
Yeah, spooky.
Spooky.
Well, I don't really have anything else for you guys.
Well, thank you both. For
Thank you guys for
Have
coming
fun.
up here. Wish you so much success with this movie.
Thank you.
Tomorrow night comes out,
Off to the
November
races.
12th.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and
Crazy.
you haven't seen it, that's weird. Go watch the movie.
And thank you for watching it.
Yeah, thank you.